All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. Today we got Richie in here for Duke, who's still traveling back from Pittsburgh. He was out there, had himself a nice little weekend, went to the Pitt Clemson game as well as a Penguins game and then the Steelers game because he is a Pittsburgh guy, I guess.
Why does he just move to Pittsburgh?
All right, just go ahead and get it over with, man. And that
Just be a Yenzer, man.
Yeah, right. And just eat Permani Brothers all day and fucking because you work in a steel mill and you can't have your sandwich and not have everything on it, right? You can't have fries on the side and have to eat it. You got to put everything on the sandwich because that's the only way you can eat it.
Clog them arteries.
Messies. But yeah, so he's on his way back. So it's me and Richie rocking it today. Speaking of Duke's got comments. Dude, focus on driving, all right?
I want you to get a distracted driving going through Ohio. Dude.
Right? You're going to end up getting a Dewey and you're not even drunk, hopefully. So since we're talking about Pittsburgh, how do they keep winning football games, the Steelers specifically?
I don't know.
It's not in the notes. But then I brought it up with Duke, and they had 6 field goals. That's how they won.
I know. I was doing leaves yesterday, and I was listening to it through my YouTube TV. I'm like, how have they not scored a touchdown?
Because they suck. They suck on offense. But somehow they just go kick 6 field goals and win. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't have any words. They beat my Commanders the other week and held Jaden Daniels in check, and then they go out this week and they beat the fucking Ravens.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, but whatever. It's another W for Schittsburg, and they're in first place in the AFC North, and they have 2 quarterbacks that aren't really that good, but their defense keeps winning games. But we'll get into the show. This week we got a lot to go over. Obviously, there's always a lot to talk about in college football and the world. We had a great weekend of college football. A lot of people have been talking about kind of the college football viewers, and obviously the big noon kickoff is a hot button topic that you and Duke discussed, me and Duke discussed, everybody in the world has discussed, because Ohio State's going to play 6 straight noon games, and every big game they ever have from now until the end of this Fox contract is going to be on big noon, so just get over it. But the college football viewership, it's something that's interesting, and I want to put a graphic up here in a few, but like, what do you think? There's 34 or so first Division I or FBS, whatever they're called nowadays, schools. What percentage of those do you think get the viewers? I mean, what percent of the 134 teams actually drive the numbers?
I'd say at least like 5%. I mean, you're talking Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia.
Yeah, and so
I don't know. It's like, to me, it's like 10, 5 to 10%.
Yeah, so I'll put this graphic up just because I have it here, and producer Ed's taking a day off. He went to fucking Pittsburgh as well, and he was rooting for Clemson though. But just to give you an idea, 50% of the total viewers, so over like 50%. So let's say there's, I don't know what the number is, but let's call it 1 billion viewers on any weekend, right? 50% of that comes from 18 schools. And they're listed right there. Everybody you just mentioned: Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, LSU, Penn State, Texas, Auburn, Florida, Wisconsin, Washington, Florida State, Tennessee, USC, Oregon.
That's who I imagined.
Yeah, I mean, those are the schools you think of. Obviously, Florida State still holding their own, even though they're 1-9. I mean, there's some schools that are down, but those are the schools you would imagine have the biggest viewership. I'm trying to think if there's a school that's not on there. No, there's not really a school that's not on there that I would think of. I'm trying to think. Like, are there any big boy schools not on there? I don't think so. Miami, but like they don't even have enough fans to fill their stadium.
Yeah, they don't have enough people to fill the stadium.
Yeah, so that doesn't shock me. No, I mean Clemson's up there. Yeah, I mean I think that list is probably every national champion for the past
25 years.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of somebody else that's won a national title. Not on this list. I can't think of one right off the top of my head. I'm sure there is one. Somebody will correct me eventually, but not that comes to mind. And the other thing is only 10% of the total views come from the bottom 71 schools. So
wow.
That's over 50% of your Division I schools, right? I believe. Yeah, there's 134. So 71 schools would be over 50% of your schools, not even bringing in 10% of the viewers. And so if you look at this graphic, what do you think that tells, or what should that tell somebody? Like, what does that tell you?
Or those 18
like
schools
forecast the future.
I mean, those 18 schools right there, those are the ones that garner the most money.
Absolutely.
Garner the most attention, garner the most revenue.
Yeah. Now, let's see. How many Big Ten schools are in there? 4? OSU, Michigan, Washington, Washington, USC, Oregon. So only and Penn State. So there's 6 total. 3 and Wisconsin. So 7 total. 7 total. 4 original Big Ten schools, 3 Pac-12 schools that joined. But that means there's 11 Big Ten schools that are getting paid the same amount of money as the 7 that are on this list for their media rights. And they're not changing the barometer at all. Like, I mean, hey, Rutgers, what are you doing to help the Big Ten?
Chopping wood.
Yeah, exactly. And what this tells me is that when you see stats like this, and as we move forward in the new day and age with NIL, with players getting revenue sharing, with all the things that are going to happen and are happening in college football, this tells me these 18 schools are about to form a super conference.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right there, that's going to be the big conference coming in about 10 years.
Yeah,
that's what you're
because you know what? If I'm Ohio State, I'm sick and tired of playing big noon kickoffs. It's fucking boring. And the reason we have to is because you got Rutgers, Minnesota every fucking week, and they're not putting that on goddamn big noon kickoff. They're going to put Ohio State versus whoever, because Rutgers, Minnesota is probably in the bottom 71 schools down there. And so fuck off, Rutgers. It was cool when you got the New York market to have the Big Ten network, but we're past that now. You had
sailed, bro.
Yeah, you had a decade to get your shit together. You couldn't. It's time to move on. So that to me is the future of college football is in that top 50% of views. They might expand it to the top 75%.
So if let's say that is the conference right there, what would you name that conference?
Big Dick Conference? I don't know. Like, what do you mean?
I don't know. Like, what would you call it? You know,
I'd call it the Blue Blood Conference or something. Like those are your blue bloods, right? Like
BDE Conference.
Yeah, Big Dick Energy, baby. Like, I don't know, but I think they expand. I don't think you're going to get this as the super conference. I think there'll be 2 super conferences. They'll expand the percentage of viewers to like the top 75%. So that way you get like 50 schools in, and then you're going to have 2 super conferences of like 20 to 30 schools each, maybe 40 if you really want to go big. And then you're just, it's going to be a mini NFL. You're going to have the AFC and NFC, and they're going to fight it out and then play each other in the playoffs.
You're going to have your North and you're going to have your South, bottom line.
Exactly. That's what's going to
between like Missouri. Let's say Missouri's like the middle. That's where you cut it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's going to happen. And I mean, part of me is not a huge fan of that happening because I think that's going to take away a little bit of what college football was, but you're going to get some bangers every week.
Yeah.
I mean, instead
of Ohio State playing Kent and Akron, like.
Yeah, like if you have that 18-team conference, and let's say you have to play at minimum 10 conference games, right? You're playing 10 of the other 17 schools. So you're going to get Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Ohio State, Oregon. Like you're going to get Ohio State, Notre Dame. Like you're going to get big boy matchups every fucking week. And then they'll be able to play 2 out of conference or out of league games against fucking Indiana or Iowa or whatever, like Florida, not Florida, Florida's in it. But whatever, you're going to get these non-super conference games, and they'll be against former Big Ten schools or whatever, like to keep it cool. But it's going to be fun. It'll be a lot of fun to see. And before we get too deep into it, I do want to kind of reset the show here. We got a handful watching on YouTube and Twitter. I appreciate y'all. If you could, just go ahead, hop over to Twitter. We got Duke in the chat. He's driving and texting as he shouldn't be. And get over here and tell Duke he's a douchebag or whatever you want to say in the chat. We no filters. You can say whatever.
He just got pulled over. He just told me he got pulled over.
Yeah, well,
whoop. Not my problem.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll live stream the fucking cop with him. But get over here in the chat, ask us questions, say some outlandish shit, whatever you want. Also, coming up here in about 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I was looking at the calendar quick, 2 weeks. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. We're going to be doing our next live show. It's going to be at Cigar Lounge up in Hubbard, Ohio. December 7th, Championship Saturday. You're going to have the Big 12 Championship at noon. ACC championship at some point. Big Ten is the 4 o'clock or is it the night game?
I think Big Ten's always at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. So then you'll have the SEC at 4 and the Big Ten at night. And so we'll be there hanging out, watching football. We're gonna do a live show from noon till probably 1:30, 2. Who knows? It depends. But come hang out with us. Cigaro, they're hooking it up, man. We're gonna have cigars, bottle of bourbon. Going to be having a good time. So come chill with us. Come hang out. And absolutely, if you're on Twitter or YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the little bell notifications at the top. That way you get all of our notifications when we go live. It's every day, Monday through Friday, usually right now at the 7:30 time. Occasionally we'll do a Saturday show, which we did not do this week because we had obligations. Duke was obviously in Pittsburgh cheering on the Pitt Panthers to a loss and then going to, I'm going to call it Mellon Arena. I don't remember what it's named now, but he went to Penguins game, which is lame. Penguins suck. But anyways, getting back to college football. So I don't know if you watched. Did you watch the Florida LSU game?
We were on our way back from Thanksgiving with her family. And I think I was listening to it in the car through my phone, through my Bluetooth. But I didn't watch it, but I was listening to it, and I couldn't believe what was going on. Like, really? Florida came in there and kicked the door in.
Yeah, they came in there. They hosted it, but no. It was at Florida.
Oh, was that Florida? Oh, shit.
Yeah, but we'll talk about the game here in a minute, but hold on. Let me show this. PPG Paints. What does that stand for? Pussy Power Glory Hole? I don't know. You're like, yeah, it's just gay. That's gay. Gay. But that is what the arena is called in Pittsburgh. So if you want to go, do some. Anyways.
Yeah, let's not go.
Anyways, but I did want to show this because, dude, I tell you what. So I was talking to my mom about this on Saturday because obviously when my brother was at Florida, I think he got there in 05. Yeah, I think 05. So I would have been 15. So like 15, 16, 17, 18, I was, at home, and I was going with my parents down to Florida games. And then eventually I went on my own to Florida games while I was in college. And dude, it's not my number one stadium I've ever been to. But the environment when Urban Meyer was at the University of Florida is, I mean, it's hard for me not to say it's the best environment I've ever been to. It was incredible, man. Like some of the most fun, and you got to understand, I grew up in going to Notre Dame, Ohio State. Like I grew up going to some really insane environments. And I went to my first Florida game. I'll never forget it. I went to my first Florida game. I looked at my dad and I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, where are we right now? This is insane. Like I've been to Ohio State, Michigan in 2000, the 1-2 game in 2003 or whatever it was. It's like, and I mean, I've been to some crazy games, and the stuff, like when you go down south, it is different.
I bet that's on my bucket list, is to go somewhere down south.
And the thing about it is, I've watched Florida from afar for however many years Urban hasn't been there, right? And I'll watch these games, and I'm like, God, dude, this swamp is just not the same. It's not the same. And then I watched the LSU game last Saturday. And buddy, the swamp is back. The swamp is back. I mean, this place was lit and it was firing. And I've been on the Fire Billy Napier train until I saw this. I saw this and I was like, okay, never mind. He's got that place jumping like it's never been jumping since Urban Meyer left. Like when Dan Mullen was there, when every coach they've had since, it's been dead. You look at the stands and they all look like, God, why am I here?
Yep.
And now it's back, and they're doing the stuff all the SEC stadiums do with the light shows and the music, and everybody's crazy and all that. Everything Ohio State should do, but they don't.
I saw something on Instagram yesterday. I sent some people. I'm like, this dude had like this. He had these lights going on in his basement, and the smoke was coming out like Northwest Ohio State winds. I'm like, I said that's a better experience in your basement than at the stadium.
Exactly.
I'm just like,
the thing. I've seen it for years at the SEC stadiums like LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Auburn. All of them do it. Ole Miss, like they all have these crazy fan experiences when you go to games. And I always thought it was just like an SEC thing. Then I watched the Notre Dame Florida State game on TV. I wasn't even there. I just watched it on TV at your house, actually. And Notre Dame's doing the same shit. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. If Notre Dame can do it, and
why can't Ohio State do it?
Miss me with all this. Oh, there's old fans that'll complain. The boosters. Notre Dame is the biggest old money school in the country. All right. Yeah. And if they can do it, Ohio State can do it, and Ohio State's got more money to do it. Like it makes no sense. And the Florida, this stadium is the coolest thing. One of the coolest stadiums I've ever been to. And maybe I'll do a show or a segment sometime where I rank my top stadiums I've been to, because I'd really have to think about it and put a list together because it changes every time I do it off the top of my head. But the swamp is up there, definitely, and it's back, and they are. And this is the Florida Gators.
Photo. That is such a cool photo. Like I'm not even a Gator fan. I fucking love that. Like I want to take that picture and blow it up and put it in my basement.
Exactly.
Like dude, that is how cool it is to me.
Yeah. And this is a funny story. So I obviously was a Florida fan when Urban was there. Yeah. I went to the University of Kentucky. I was still a Florida fan my entire time at Kentucky. Which didn't make me very popular amongst the student body because Kentucky hates Florida. It's a very one-sided hatred. Florida could give two shits about Kentucky, but they hate them. And then I left Kentucky, went to Ohio State, and I met my eventual wife, ex-wife, whatever. And years down the road, after we had our first daughter, we went down to visit her family in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is about an hour drive from Gainesville. And I was like, hey, we're not that far. We should drive over to Gainesville, and I'll show you around. And she was like, all right, cool. And so we drove over to Gainesville. I took her around campus. We went to Ballyhoo, which is a bar restaurant there. And then the cool thing about the stadium, I took her to the stadium, and like we walked around outside. I showed her the Tim Tebow statue with his promise plaque and all that. And then And then the cool thing about the stadium is you can just go in it.
Right.
It's unlocked. You can just go. So we went in the stadium, walked around, and then we went into the merch shop. And I was thinking like, I'll get her a T-shirt or something. This woman wanted everything. She was like, I'm a Florida fan. Like, this is the coolest place I've ever been in my life. Like, and I've told the story about how much I spent the first time I took her to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We didn't reach that, but we spent a few $100s, and I was like, all right, we're Florida fans now. Sounds good. But it's something different. And Florida Gator, the Twitter, I don't know if you've seen this, but the Twitter has been on fire at Florida.
I've not seen the Twitter.
The official Twitter, go back and look at their tweets after the LSU game. I don't know what exactly Brian Kelly did to Florida, other than just being the LSU coach, and they hate LSU. But man, they dug up clips of him. They had all kinds, like they were roasting him. Yeah. And then they post this about, because they host Ole Miss this weekend. And they said Ole Miss is not ready for the swamp this weekend. And I got to tell you, I don't know if Ole Miss is ready for the swamp.
I might tune in.
Yeah, it might get crazy. So it'll be fun, man. That's a fun place. And Duke, you got me. Florida's not dead. Give Billy an extension.
So Duke's probably eating pizza and driving and texting at the same time right now. Like, how are you doing this, Duke?
I don't know.
Come on, bro.
But yeah, it's not dead. Florida is not dead. In fact,
could they be on the resurgence? Carter,
I would contest they are. I think they might go 7-5.
Bowl eligible.
Yeah, I mean they'll definitely be bowl eligible. They're 5-5 right now, and they have Ole Miss and Florida State left. They're going to go 6-6 at worst. I said 5-7 was their ceiling. I was wrong. I didn't expect they would beat LSU. I should have taken into account the fact that Brian Kelly is a world-class douchebag and would lose that game. I should have. I don't know why. Maybe it's the Notre Dame fan in me. I continue to overestimate this guy. But I really think they might go 7-5. And if they go 7-5, Billy Napier pulled off one of the greatest seasons in college football with the schedule he was handed. But regardless of all that, exactly. And I think they're good for keeping him. I've completely changed. I know I've completely changed my tune on this, by the way. I'm well aware. I was on the fire Billy Napier train from preseason. I said 5-7 is the best they could do. And they're going to go 6-6. I mean, that's the basement now. And 6-6 is a good year for this schedule with that team. But we're going to get into our rankings. It is not the college football playoff rankings. It's our rankings, what we think the college football playoff should do, not necessarily what they will do. But I think we might be a little closer on this one. We did really well week 1. Week 2, we were a little off. I think the college football playoff was a little off themselves, and I think that played out this weekend. But the one thing I did want to talk about is, and Barstool Ole Miss tweeted about it, did you look at the AP poll when it came out yesterday?
No, I did not know I was.
Okay, so this is new to you too. Yeah. So the AP poll comes out, and 1 through 6 is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, they had it went Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana. I forget who 6 was. Notre Dame, I think. But then 7 was Alabama. 8 was Georgia. Ole Miss 9, Tennessee 10, Miami 11. And Barstool Ole Miss puts this out, and I think it's hilarious because I agree. It's very interesting that AP poll has Georgia above Ole Miss. If only we could see these two teams play each other, then we'd have a good idea who the better team is. Because they did.
Make it make sense.
Like, I know Georgia just beat Tennessee. I get it. But Ole Miss just beat Georgia.
They just kicked their shit in.
And they didn't lose. Like, you had them ranked above Georgia last week. Ole Miss went out, took care of business, has already shown you they're better than Georgia on the field. Georgia beats Tennessee, and all of a sudden they're better than Ole Miss now? Like,
the transitive property of the wise one Duke.
Yeah, but like what? It makes no sense. So I hate that they put him above him, but that's AP voters for you. They vote off brand more than anything else.
They don't know shit.
So
bunch of dorks.
Yeah. So, but I think Barstool, which I don't talk a lot about Barstool, but I think that was pretty spot on there with that tweet. But so that's everything I found on social media that I thought was interesting. Again, we'll reset. If you're on YouTube or Twitter, get over to YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button, hit the bell notifications, jump in the chat, shoot us some questions. We'll answer them live on air, whatever the questions are. I really don't have a filter, so whatever. But there was some news that came out today on the future of some of the coaches. Obviously, Billy Napier got the vote of confidence. He's safe. Lincoln Riley, they have 80 million reasons to keep him. And then the Baylor coach, I forget his name right now off the top of my head, but he's apparently not getting fired either. Again, I think it's buyout related because they all know that they have this house against the NCAA lawsuit that is going on, and that's going to cost them a lot of money, and they're going to have to shell out an extra $25 million a year to the players going forward. And so they're not willing to eat these buyouts, as Duke has said many times, in order to remove some of these coaches. I think in Florida's case, they honestly believe in Billy Napier. I think in USC's case, they think, I'm not paying 80 million. So,
yeah.
But there were 3 coaches that were fired today. Stan Drayton is no longer a head football coach. If that name sounds familiar, it should. He was the running backs coach at Florida under Urban Meyer.
He was at Ohio State too,
right? Was at Ohio State for a while, was a wide receivers coach randomly in 2011, and then Urban moved him back to running backs where he belongs. He was fired today. I'm sure he will get another job, probably not as a head coach, but he's an excellent running backs coach. And then on top of that, Don Brown, former Michigan defensive coordinator extraordinaire, Don Brown, was fired as well today. And then our guy, everybody's guy, Mr. Titty Club, Tom Herman, got the boot today after just 2 years. Not even 2 full years. He got booted. What a fall from grace.
What a heartbreaker. I mean, shit. You get fired from FIU?
FIU, one of them.
One of the FIU, yeah.
Yeah, either one doesn't matter.
One of the FUs.
Yeah, one of the FUs. And it's funny. Tom Herman, known shitbag.
Complete shitbird.
Was maybe the hottest name in college football 6 years ago. I mean, one of the hottest names we've had in the past 6 years. Like, he was a bona fide can't miss at Houston. Like, he turned Houston around quickly, went to Texas. He won the Sugar Bowl, and the infamous "we're back," and then shit the bed for 2 more years, and then got fired, and then went to the FUs and sucked ass and yelled at a coach that didn't shake his hand long enough. I don't know, but it does make for some interesting content because Stan Drayton, I think he'll go somewhere probably as a running backs coach. I don't think he's really offensive coordinator caliber personally. I think he's a great running backs coach. He landed Zeke Elliott and Mike Weber at Ohio State and developed them into NFL running backs. I think he does a really good job with running backs. So I would be not at all surprised if a school picked him up for that. Don Brown and Tom Herman, though, they immediately become, top candidates for open coordinator jobs. And there's one school that already has 2 coordinator jobs open in Florida State. There's another school that's a little north of Columbus and a little north of Akron and Canton that is probably going to fire their offensive coordinator very soon. Could Tom Herman be the next offensive coordinator at the University of Michigan?
Could he?
I'm not breaking any news here. I'm not breaking any news, but
we're not throwing shit to the wall to see if it sticks. But
so I do know, I have it on good authority from somebody I know, that the top 2 candidates for the Michigan offensive coordinator job are, oh shit, I forget the first one. Butch Jones, the former Tennessee coach, and Dan Mullen. Those are the 2 guys that they're going after. And if they hire Butch Jones, Ohio State fans, just cheer. Just be excited.
Hey, I hope they hire him.
Now, if they hire Dan Mullen is a genius when it comes to offense, and that could be a great hire. If Dan Mullen can stop being such a pretentious douchebag, which is really hard for him to do. He did it early in his career at Florida, and then he kind of became a pretentious douchebag and took a job at Mississippi State, and then he was a huge douchebag and failed everywhere he went. But if they don't get either one of those guys, I wouldn't be shocked if they looked at Tom Herman. Could you imagine? Okay. Could you just imagine Tom Herman being the offensive coordinator in Michigan, walking into Ohio Stadium? What that would look like?
I'd give him the biggest middle finger.
It would be excellent. It would be excellent. But and Duke puts it in the text that he's going to go to Wisconsin with Luke Fickell. Buddy, I hate to break it to you, Luke Fickell fucking hates Tom Herman.
Yeah.
One of them is actually like a good Christian and like a good person with a wife and family that he loves and cares about. And his name's not Tom.
Yeah.
But neither here nor there, but we'll go ahead and reset the show here. We're about 30 minutes in. We do have Mr. Pittsburgh himself jumping on with us. But while you're out there, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe, retweet, all that stuff. Just go ahead and give us all the pub possible. But we're going to add Mr. Andre Duke to the show now and see what he has to say. Hey, welcome to the show, Andre.
Whoa, black and yellow, man.
What's up, fellas?
Not much. How was Pittsburgh?
Oh, it was great. Went to the Hall of Fame today. Was at the Pitt game. Whenever they stopped selling beer at the Penguins game, that was it for me. They ended up losing.
I'm just proud of you for staying awake, man.
Oh, yeah. The Pitt game was really cool. We got to see Klubnik's his big run he had there, and at the end. So
was anybody upset? Was anybody upset in the stadium about how badly Pitt fucked that game up?
Oh my God.
Oh, so.
Or did they not care? I don't know how Pitt fans are.
To add some context to that, when it came to the roughing the passer call that let Clemson kick that field goal, so the white hat was standing behind the play in his position, had his hand on his flag and didn't throw it, took his hand off his flag, and then Klubnik laid there, and then the back or the guy to the left of the white hat looks at him, looks at Klubnik still on the ground, 15 yards. And the targeting was targeting in that game. The Clemson folks, we were sitting in the pro Clemson side. The Clemson folks were freaking out about the targeting call, and it's like it's forcible contact to the head or neck. I don't like it, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah.
Penguins.
Interesting. Did you sing Sweet Caroline?
No, we were like the only people in there not singing it.
No, well, that's fair. I mean, they stole it from Boston. It's a really loser thing to do, but hey, do what you got to do, Pittsburgh.
Typical Pittsburgh.
Well, you should have seen. So speaking of that, just a logistical thing here. It's a logistical nightmare down at Acusure, regardless whether there's a game going on or not. So
did you go to Bettis? Did you go to the Bar and Grill? Did you go to Bettis Bar and Grill?
No, that's Jason Aldean's now.
Oh, Well, okay. I haven't been there in a few years, clearly.
I've been there one time.
Okay, when was the last year you were there?
Well, I'd have to look it up. It was before I had kids, so probably 7-8 years ago. It was still Heinz Field.
Well, it was Heinz Field. Did they have the AT&T Sportsnet built in Burger Theory and all that built in the parking lot? Or was it just
No.
Or was it just Bettis's in just a giant parking lot?
No, Bettis's was right on the corner, and then next to it was like a tilted kilt and all this stuff.
Yeah, so you're thinking backwards, but whenever you would walk towards the stadium, was Stage AE there or any of that?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Dude. No, I think it was just a parking lot.
Yeah, so like where that giant parking lot was at, it's like cut in half now. Oh, they have like a Stage AE, an outdoor music venue that they have like pregame stuff going on.
Because why would you need parking down there? It's not like they have every stadium in the entire city right there.
Yeah, so that's there. They have Burger Theory, Tequila Cowboy, Jason Aldean's now.
They got Tequila Cowboy?
Yeah, they have a
might have to go back.
What was that bar we went to with the mini bowling?
Oh, Pins.
Yeah, they have a Pins there now that took out like half the building. So yeah, it's definitely changed. They have a giant parking garage there now.
Okay. Did you make it down to the south side?
No.
No? Oh man, you missed out. You got to go to south side.
Can't take the 5-year-old to the south side.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I didn't know your kid was with you. That makes sense.
Yeah. So would have been to the south side. Would have went to cheerleaders. Would have got some top notch fried wings and fried ass. But
exactly. Okay. All right. 5-year-old was with you. That makes more sense.
Jesus Christ.
So what I want to talk about is the viral clip out there where we were sitting. I know this is totally off context. So I just completely just torpedoed and crashed where the show was going.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
So after I seen the Billy Napier love that Carter has came around to, I had to pop on.
Anyways.
These will be my two things, and then I'll let you guys. I'll let the show.
No,
continue.
You can stay on. We'll keep going. You keep rolling.
But we had so there's a clip out there of this guy's a content creator.
Okay.
He was a content creator that goes around and kicks field goals. You've probably seen his videos.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know who he was, so in the section we were sitting in, where the club level's at, there's a huge like 4-foot drop off.
Mm-hmm.
So all game, these two dudes were chirping back and forth. Everything was kosher and stuff like that. Well, the guy started taking his phone out and recording him at the game.
Okay.
And so the dude's like, hey, stop that, knock it off. And it was, they just kept going back and forth. And then the dude leaned over the rail and like stuck his finger at him and said, hey, quit fucking recording me. And so Wonder Guy, the field goal kicker, gets up on one of the fold down seats and sticks it even closer to his face. So dude says, you stick that phone in my face again, I'm going to take it from you. So what does buddy do? Pull out his phone, stick it right in his face. And dude takes the phone and says, I told you to quit recording me, and throws it on the ground. And that was that. Thought that was the end of it. And then there was a whole bunch of chirping. Well, halftime rolls around and dude takes off. And then everybody, he's in a whole horde of Steeler fans. Well, you got people, doing what they're doing all around. Well, here comes one of the supervisors from the security. The only thing he does is walks up there, claps his hands, and says, everybody, let's get along, and a thumbs up, and walks away. So everybody in the section is like calling this dude a snitch and all kinds of stuff the entire second half. Well, fast forward, and a lot of call your supervisor was getting circulated through the crowd where we were at. So if you go and watch that clip, which I'll send it to you, I am just out of the camera. We're walking out of our seats to go out of the game to go back up to the the lounge inside where, you can hang out for an hour after the game and, have a grand old time, which I did.
Yeah.
Well, as we're all walking out, Buddy stands up on the back of the chair again and puts his hands on the railing and starts chirping the guy. And the guy's like, you know what, man? I just want this to be over. And pats him on the shoulder. And the dude goes to grab him, grabs his shirt, because you see him pull back like this, and then whop, open hand bitch slaps him and walks out of the stadium.
I love a good fight. That's great. I mean, not even fight, but just a good little argument,
Who doesn't? It was great. But anyway, yeah. The last thing
that just sounds pretty on brand for that stadium. Like, I've seen clips recently of Steelers fans just being complete douchebags. So that seems like
my thing is that if there's somebody pulling their phone out recording me, I'm not going to be real happy about it. And then on top of it, saying things to dude's wife.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah. You talk to my girl, that crosses the line.
Because the IG post doesn't say anything about that at all.
No. That crosses the line for sure.
Yeah.
If I see a dude recording me, I'll just be like, hey, make sure you tag me.
Yeah. So that was going on. And then I think what sent it over the edge is when the field goal kicker guy grabs him, grabbed his shirt, and then that's what he smacked him for.
Yeah, I'd lose it. And you grab my shirt, you deserve whatever's about to happen, and it's not going to be pretty. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Billy ball game, big game, Billy.
We've already talked about it. We don't need to rehash this. We already talked about it.
This is
he
great.
Got a cute little win.
Had a huge recruiting weekend too. Florida is flying up the On3 rankings. What can we say now? If you listen to other podcasts, they say Billy Napier is dead, but he is arisen like the Undertaker to ruin seasons.
Yeah. Well, anyways, he got a nice win against one of the worst coaches in all of college football. That's fair.
One of the most winning. One of the most winning.
You know what? All right. No, we're not getting into it.
Hey,
we're not going there.
No, I'm gonna let that slide. Slide.
I haven't made up my mind if I'm coming down. Is Zach doing a live show on Friday?
He is.
I might come to Columbus on Friday.
Yep.
I already got to be there Saturday.
Anyways, enough about the Florida Gators and their apparent
epic
rise
win,
to,
signature win
against one of the most winningest terrible coaches ever, who happens to be Notre Dame's most winningest coach ever, I believe. But
you are what your record says you are.
Yeah, and he's trash, 6-4. But anyways. We do have the college football playoff rankings coming out tomorrow. I know we were a day late last week because of Veterans Day, but I said we would release it on Monday. So we're going to go ahead and release our rankings. This is what we believe, or at least I believe. I didn't consult either one of these two, so if I'm wrong, it's all on me. But this is what I believe the rankings should be tomorrow, and I don't know if I sent it to you guys, so this might be the first time you guys see it too. But here, and we'll talk about it because I think there's some question marks here, and I'm not very confident. But here is what I have for the rankings that'll come out tomorrow, and then we do have a projected bracket as well that will show that's not ours. That one from On3. But we'll compare. But I think the first 5 or 6 are pretty set in stone. They're going to hold pat, do exactly what they did last week for the first 5. You have Oregon 1. They played a tight game against Wisconsin. Whatever, but they won on the road. Ohio State took care of business against Northwestern. Texas took care of business against Arkansas. They didn't win convincingly, but they won by 10. Penn State is Penn State, and then Indiana. I don't see any reason why Indiana would move up on a bye week. So I think the top 5 are going to stay pretty much the same. You guys agree or disagree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Through the first 5, I agree. The only issue I have is with the Penn State being ranked as high as they are.
I agree,
because if you take, and this is something, this excludes Ohio State and Oregon, but those 3 teams, or you could even put Notre Dame in there, even though Notre Dame has just been absolutely blowing everybody out. And I think this, from the first 6 weeks that we covered this team till now, is a total different team.
Totally different team, yeah. Totally completely agree.
Is a totally different team. Notre Dame is rolling right now. But you could take the emblems away and throw those resumes on a table and put that resume against Ole Miss and see which one's better.
So yeah, I would agree with you. I think if you take the 3 through 5, right? Texas, Penn State, Indiana, they're all pretty much the same. The major difference is Indiana's the only one without a loss, but clearly the committee has shown us that they aren't going to value Indiana until they show them something. Like, they're not going to put them above Penn State, even though Penn State doesn't have a better win than Indiana. They just have a better loss, I guess, but they have a loss in Indiana. That doesn't make sense to me. And last week we had Indiana at 4. The only reason I flipped them is because I know the committee's already going to flip. Like, they already flipped them. So I'm going to try to be as accurate as I can be. But I think Indiana's resume is better than Penn State because they don't have a loss. Like, yeah, you can give Penn State credit for having a 7-point loss to Ohio State, but it's still a loss. Like, just because they played a good team. Now, this week obviously is going to show us Indiana gets to play Ohio State, common opponent. It's going to be at Ohio State. So that's a different scenario. But if Indiana goes out and loses by 7 or less, I think there's no reason that Indiana shouldn't jump Penn State. But they're not going to if they lose. That's the thing. That's crazy. Is like, they will essentially have the same exact resume after Indiana loses to Ohio State, unless Indiana gets blown out by Ohio State, right? If they play them close at the shoe, they will have the exact same resume, essentially, and Penn State will still somehow be ranked above. Now, Texas has a dog shit resume and then a good loss to Georgia, like Penn State. And so I guess the good loss to Georgia and the good loss to Ohio State is better than not losing to anybody, even though you played nobody. Now, the argument I'll push back on is, you said Notre Dame's resume could be compared. Notre Dame's the only school in 3 through 6 that has a ranked win.
Well, yeah.
They have 2 of them. I mean, they had 2 of them. I guess Louisville probably won't be ranked anymore. But they beat Texas A&M, who's going to be a top 15 team in this playoff ranking. And that, now they have one of the worst losses as well, which is why I think they're properly ranked at 6, which is where I have them. Now, that's where things get interesting, because the only reason I have them ranked 6 is when I look at last week's rankings and the schools that were ahead of Notre Dame. First of all, they lost. And then the schools behind Notre Dame didn't do enough to jump them. Like, they're not going to, I don't think so anyways. I could be wrong, but I think Notre Dame's going to be 6. Go ahead.
Sorry for the cutoff there, but you want to have absolute chaos. Let Texas A&M beat Texas.
Yeah.
Think about this, because you would have a 2-loss Texas, 1-loss Indiana, 1-loss Penn State. And if Ole Miss wins out, because I think if
do you know what happens if Ole Miss wins out and A&M beats Texas, who's in the SEC title game?
Probably Ole Miss and A&M.
Nope. A&M and Bama.
See, that's that. How does that make any? This is the issue I have with the big conferences now.
Yep. Because if A&M beats Texas, Alabama wins out, Ole Miss wins out, Georgia wins out, then you're going to have A&M and Bama in the SEC title game.
Well, at that point, with A&M beating Texas, you have to put Bama, A&M, Ole Miss, and Georgia in, no matter what, if they all win out.
Pretty much. Unless A&M loses the SEC title game to Bama and has 4 losses, they can't put them in then.
Well, but hold on. The committee said they're not gonna hold a conference championship loss against anybody.
Yeah, until they need to.
That's what I think it was dumb when they put the guidelines out, because I guess we pretty much hashed out the first 5 there. Let's go to 7 through 12.
Yeah, so 7 I have Miami. They were whatever they were, 9 or 8 or 9 last week. They obviously, I think they had a bye week, right? So they can't fall. And then BYU and Tennessee obviously lost. I think they just hold 1 spot behind Notre Dame. I don't think you're going to get Alabama, Ole Miss, or Georgia to jump them right now.
I didn't even think about this, but Scott makes a great point.
It would be crazy, right? It would be crazy. But here's the funny thing about the way that the college football playoff is worded. The Big 12 doesn't get an auto bid.
No, but they could at least get 1 team in.
Maybe. If it's Arizona State, maybe not.
I think if Arizona State wins the Big 12, they'll rank them. They'll put them in.
No, I saw a scenario where it is, because it's only the 4 conference champions that get a bye. The group of 5 is the only one guaranteed a spot if they're not one of the top ranked 4 conference champions. The Big 12 is not guaranteed a spot if they aren't in the top 12.
Could you imagine Arizona State wins it and doesn't get in?
Yeah, I could imagine. You know how I could imagine? Let's say Texas or Georgia is the first team out if you put Arizona State in. Who do you think they're going to put in? I guarantee you Texas or Georgia.
Well, because looking at the rung of teams, Ole Miss has to win, and the biggest thing that the committee needs is A&M to lose to Texas.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the committee needs A&M. Yeah, A&M needs to lose to Texas, otherwise the committee is going to be in a real shitty spot. But
because pretty much the way it's going to line up, the ACC is going to be a 1-bid league.
Yeah. No, so, I would think so. I think the ACC gets their champion in, which
it's either going to be
although okay.
Miami.
You already said it. They're not holding conference championship games against the team. So if Miami is number 7 in the rankings, loses to SMU gets the auto bid. Are they not putting Miami in, or are they going to hold that loss against them?
That's my whole argument with the SEC champion, because Bama would have 3 losses
if Bama loses to Texas or A&M in the title game?
The SEC championship game.
Yeah, they would have 3 losses, and if Miami loses to SMU in the ACC title, they'd have 2 losses. And if you're not holding those games against these schools, you have to put them in because they're obviously top 8 right now. But Scott just said it, and I don't know what's wrong with my computer right now. I can't use my cursor, so I'm not going to be able to unshare my screen or anything. But yeah, the committee lies. They are going to do whatever fits their narrative, right? They're going to say we won't hold that against them until they need to hold it against them, and they'll be like, well, they have 3 losses. And it's like, yeah, but one of them was the conference championship game. You said those don't count.
Also, let me know whenever you want to switch graphics, Carter. I can remove that.
Yeah, I will. But so I have a Miami 7. Now, these next 3 teams I think are very interesting because the AP poll has them in a different order. I picked what I think the order should be. Obviously, the playoff committee hasn't picked their order yet, but I think Bama's going to be 8 because Bama's been the most impressive of the 3, other than obviously the loss to Ole Miss and Georgia. But those are 2 impressive losses, which makes it hard to rank them above those 2 schools, right? They already lost to them, but they also have beaten other schools and everything. But, who knows? I don't know.
Right.
I still don't know how in the AP poll they have Georgia ahead of Ole Miss.
Well, Richie and I talked about that. And
that makes zero
that's
sense.
why I have Ole Miss above them, because we literally just saw those two teams play, and Ole Miss dominated. So I don't care that Georgia went into Tennessee, or actually Tennessee went into Georgia, but I don't care that Georgia just dominated Tennessee. That doesn't erase the fact that you already lost to this team. You both have 2 losses. I'm putting Ole Miss above Georgia. I think Ole Miss should be ranked above Georgia. I'm not 100% sure that if they had a rematch right now, Georgia wouldn't beat them. I'm not saying Georgia's not the better team. They might be. But as far as the rankings go, which is not just picking the best teams, it's picking the best resumes along with the teams, I think Ole Miss should be ranked above Georgia. They played head-to-head. We know what happened. Now, could you make the argument that Bama should be ranked beneath both of them then? Yeah. But
I think
they've already shown us they're not going to do that. So
yeah. Well, the problem with the Ole Miss thing, in which, there's probably some Ole Miss people watching this, and they'll probably come out of the woodwork on me on this, but the issue I have is that Ole Miss, outside of Georgia, behind Notre Dame's loss to NIU, Ole Miss is Georgia Tech a worse loss at their place, or is Kentucky coming into the Grove and beating Ole Miss a better?
I think that loss at Miami for against Georgia Tech is way worse.
Then Kentucky coming in like.
So I agree, because I think Kentucky's resume says they're trash, but they also almost beat Georgia. They also almost beat, who else was it? I forget, but they played somebody else close. Obviously, Kentucky's 1-4 in the SEC. Like, they haven't had a good year.
Like them and Mississippi State are, scraping the bottom.
Yeah, but to be fair, Georgia Tech hasn't looked great.
No, because Georgia Tech
was week 1 against Florida State, and then we found out Florida State's trash.
Yeah, they were riding the Florida State stuff, but realistically, I think Brent Key's done a great job there. But Georgia Tech's going to be 6-6. Kentucky's going to have a losing record, though.
Maybe.
No, they're going to have they're going to be like 4-8 or something. Or 5-6.
If I could use my computer, I would pull it up. But anyways, that's a bad loss. Obviously, but Miami doesn't have the wins that Ole Miss has.
No.
But Ole Miss, their only real win is against Georgia.
Which is a fucking that
counts. Big win, Duke.
That means something.
That carries its weight in gold.
Have you looked at Miami's resume? You know what their big win is?
Yeah, Miami doesn't. Louisville,
who's 6-4 and just lost to Stanford. That's their biggest win. That's their only win worth talking about. And they almost lost to Virginia Tech and Cal. Okay, and Cal's the only team to lose to Florida State in the entire universe.
Kentucky is 4-6.
Yeah, they're gonna go 6-6, baby.
They're no, because they play Louisville to end the year.
Yeah,
and they have
buddy. You don't know anything about that Kentucky-Louisville rivalry, do you? Them cats are gonna come out there and just eat the birds. They're not eating the dogs. They're not eating the cats anymore. We're eating birds.
Well, that sounds great, but you have Texas and Louisville. Kentucky has losses to Tennessee, Auburn.
Wait, Kentucky plays Texas and Louisville?
Their last 2 games.
Oh, well, fuck. They're not going 6-6. Why'd you lead with Louisville?
Because it's the last game of the year. Because I know,
but they're not going to get their 5th win against Texas.
So Kentucky's only beat Southern Miss, Ohio, Ole Miss, and Murray State.
Hey. No, don't you shit on them Bobcats from Ohio, all right?
They got beat by Kentucky. They got beat by Kentucky 40-6. 2 field goals.
Anyways, yeah, Kentucky's trash. I get it. But
I like Scott's sentiment here.
So yeah, I don't disagree with that. The only problem with that is it's just going to be 5 Big Ten teams, 6 SEC teams, and then a random team like Notre Dame.
Okay, let's do the Ole Miss thing, because I think you'll just hear me out on this.
I already did, I thought, but okay.
You have Furman.
Yeah, I know that their schedule's trash, but they beat Georgia.
They lost to Kentucky and LSU. LSU is turning into being a dumpster fire.
I get it. Yeah, okay. So LSU is Louisville, who Miami beat.
And LSU is 6-4.
Yeah, same with Louisville.
They got Vandy.
Listen, if Ole Miss loses to Vandy, they're out.
No. Ole Miss has the Egg Bowl in. I was saying LSU has Vandy.
Oh, who cares about LSU, man? They might go 6-6 too. Fuck.
They gotta go. They gotta go on the road to Florida, and then they have Mississippi State at home.
Yeah. So yeah, they might lose to Florida, but then they'll be good. But and regardless, you have to put Miami ahead of Ole Miss right now. They have 1 loss. It's just is what it is. But Ole Miss should be up there. They have a better win than Miami, but they have 2 losses. So
I just think that I think a lot of the big issue this year is that a lot of the teams that are in the playoff, that are vying for a playoff spot, if you go up and down through the top, outside of Georgia, if you go through the top 9, nobody's schedule is really jumping off the page at you as far as really tough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's schedule is real tough. Their 2 losses are to Bama and Ole Miss, and they have wins over Texas and Clemson. And Georgia has the number 1 strength of schedule in the country, so that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Which is why they're ranked where they are, to be honest with you. I mean, Clemson, Texas, and Tennessee are their 3 big wins. Could you rank them higher? Yeah, but I have a hard time putting them over 2 teams that I've already seen beat them.
Yeah, that's the issue. The 2 teams ranked in front of them have beat them.
Yeah, but outside of the top 10, I have Boise State 11. I think they are. They struggled early, but they finished the job last week. I have Tennessee 12. Now, do you think they drop them any lower than that? Because I honestly struggled to find where Tennessee would go in this ranking.
Let me look.
I think I could see them switching them with Buffalo, or not Buffalo, Colorado. Yeah.
So I'm not putting Colorado in the top 12, and there's a reason for that. They've already shown that they're not going to rank people based off projected conference champions, right? So they have no problem ranking somebody outside the top 12 that's going to be a conference champion and putting them into the playoffs anyways. So I think they're going to rank everybody as they would. And then they just know that, if Colorado is at 15 where I have them, but they're one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions, then they're going to get in, even if they're the 15th ranked team. They don't. The ranking doesn't matter at that point. And I don't see anything on their resume that tells me they should be ranked above Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee has a stronger strength schedule. They have more impressive wins. Obviously, they have the loss to Arkansas, which is really hurting them, and then they just lost to Georgia. But Colorado has 2 losses as well, and they're way more embarrassing. So I don't see how you rank Colorado above Tennessee, but but understand that when you look at this ranking, and for anybody out there listening, this ranking isn't the top 12 aren't the ones that get in the playoffs. Like in this ranking, Colorado is the 4 seed, I believe, or no, I guess they would be the 12 seed because Boise State would be the 4.
Yeah.
So, but they get in. So Tennessee would be the first team out.
I can see that, but when it comes to impressive wins, I'm going to do it again with Tennessee. You have a win over Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, Oklahoma. They beat Florida. They're Alabama.
There you go.
Is their only big win?
There you go. And where's Alabama ranked? Now do Colorado's schedule. Now do Colorado's.
I just
find me one win that even compares to Alabama.
0. They got 0.
Yeah, none. And then tell me their 2 losses, and I'll tell you exactly what.
Wait, Carter, I take that back. North Dakota State.
Oh, okay, yeah. The Bison.
No, but in all seriousness, no, they have no. They
have no quality wins. They have a loss to Nebraska. And who's their second loss? Nebraska and
Kansas State.
Kansas State, yeah. Sorry,
but
that's a lot worse than a loss to Arkansas and Georgia.
But if you compare Colorado to Notre Dame, the last 4 weeks, they've been doing the same thing that Notre Dame's been doing. They've been blowing people out.
Okay. Texas A&M. There you go. Finish that argument.
At the time, Nebraska was rolling, but
I don't care about at the time. You can play the number 1 team
now, Duke. Right now.
And Georgia
did a month ago. Dude.
Georgia Tech beat a top 10 Florida State team.
Yeah. We saw
How's that looking? Like, I don't care about preseason rankings and all that. Like, Texas A&M is a top 15 team right now, and Notre Dame beat them. That's a ranked win. That's a good win. Colorado beat a Nebraska team that hasn't won in 5 weeks.
We can.
Or Colorado lost to a Nebraska team that hasn't won in 5 weeks. Let me correct that.
We can sit around and go in a circle about this, but Colorado's only played who's in their conference.
Yeah, I don't care. Play a better conference. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know. I would tell Notre Dame that because outside of one win that you barely won, you beat 2 MAC schools and a couple of the bottom of the barrel of the ACC.
Yeah, but you're not getting it. They still beat that team.
Well, they got to play Army this week, but who the hell knows what that's going to turn out to be?
No, but you're missing the point, dude. They still beat Texas A&M. That happened. Like, we saw it happen. They played a team that's a top 15 team, and they beat them. And they have 1 loss. That's a better resume, no matter how you slice it, no matter how you say, oh, well, but they just played the teams on their schedule. That's a better resume than Colorado's. It just is. There's nothing you can do. Colorado can't change it. They could have not lost to bad teams, and that would help.
I don't know. Kansas State's ranked.
And they lost to them.
Yeah, by a field goal.
Okay. Don't do that. Like, what do you want? Like, I don't know what your argument is. Like, yeah, they have 2 losses.
Dude, just quit while you're ahead.
No, I'm not giving up on the argument. I'm just saying that if you take the names off the teams and look at the resumes,
Notre Dame has a better resume than Colorado. Take the logos off. Notre Dame's resume is better.
I think it's about the same. Outside of Tech, if you take Texas A&M off, the resumes are the same.
Well, you can't take them off because they're on the schedule.
Yeah, like, what are you like? Yeah, okay.
That's like Ohio State taking Oregon off, and like, well, if you switch them with somebody else.
We should be number 1.
Yeah.
No, you said look at the resumes. Okay, Notre Dame has a top 15 win right now, not preseason rankings, a top 15 win. They have a bad loss to, I'd have to look at what NIU's record is, but to, like, let's call them a 5-5 MAC school.
I think they're 6-4.
6-4, cool, whatever. So they have a ranked win. They have another ranked win at the time. It's not anymore, so I won't count it. So they have 1 ranked win, one loss to a 6-4 school. Colorado has 0 ranked wins, 2 losses to a 4-5 Nebraska team, or a 5-4 or 5-5, whatever they are, Nebraska team, and Kansas State. How is that a better resume because they lost to the only good team they played?
I think that it's going to be an issue because they're going to play in a conference championship game, is what I'm saying.
Oh, that's not an issue. Win the conference championship, you're in the play. Nobody cares.
They're going to get the bump, and the Notre Dame people are going to get pissed when they get
comparing
shoveled.
2 schools that will never be compared. If Notre Dame wins out, they're in. It's done. It's over.
They're going to get in. I'm just saying where they get in, because that's been the big complaint among the schools that are in.
If Colorado wins the Big 12, they're going to be the 4 seed, probably.
Yeah.
But they'll still be ranked below Notre Dame. It's just they're a conference champion, so they're going to get in. Notre Dame will probably be the 5 seed or like a 6 or 7. That's fine. You're not going to hurt Notre Dame by putting Colorado in. That's impossible. It's not going to drop them down any because they're going to be a conference champion. The only way Colorado gets in is winning the conference. They're not in outside of that.
All I'm saying is that there's going to be some fan bases that hit. The message boards
Tennessee is the one you should be talking about because that's the school now that would be left out by Colorado.
That's where I was going next.
Yeah,
because Ole Miss has to win out. Alabama has to win out. Tennessee could win out and still not get in.
Exactly.
Because you move Colorado in, and what I think is going to fuck Tennessee on this entire deal is SMU wins the ACC and they make Miami the 11th seed because Miami, they won't hold it against them, and Colorado gets in. And Tennessee doesn't.
So here's the good news for all the scenarios. I honestly believe Indiana might get left out.
Mm-hmm.
Not if they play Ohio State close.
Yeah, but I think they're going to get blown out. But so if they lose by 21 or more, I think Indiana gets left out. And that's going to open the door for SMU and Miami to get in, or Tennessee to get in, or A&M to get in, or whatever. But
maybe
even
Clemson.
Clemson could get in. I think Clemson's got a long shot. I don't know how they get there, but
I don't know.
Indiana
I think
out.
They sneak in. I really do think they somehow put them in there.
Yeah, but so the bottom row, I have SMU 13. I think they're not going to put them top 12 because they have a bias towards them. I don't think they necessarily deserve to be left out. A&M's 14 because A&M is just holding pat, doing what they do. I think Colorado moves up to 15. BYU after the loss drops to 16 because they know the Big 12 champion in probably, and so they don't care.
My thing is, it's going to depend upon who plays in the Big 12 championship game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it's going to come down to the same scenario as Miami, SMU, and probably most likely Colorado, BYU. Losers go home.
Yeah, I think so. I think the ACC is the only, of those 2 conferences, I think the ACC is the only one that if SMU beats Miami in a close game, they're the only ones that'll have an argument to maybe get 2 in. The Big 12's cooked. They're getting 1. They're getting their conference champion. That's it.
So here's a wild scenario. What happens if Boise loses in the Mountain West Championship?
No, they're out.
To who? Then Army or Tulane gets in as a group of 5?
Well, you got Louisiana Monroe's only got 1 loss.
What, are they in the American as well?
No, they're in the Sun Belt.
No.
Because I think it's going to be critical the next coming weeks. This is just Duke forecasting on scenarios, and that's why I brought up the Colorado thing, and that's why I brought up the Tennessee thing on the resumes. That's why I read everybody's resume out there, and that's where I was going with this, because if you have a Tulane team that was ranked number 25, Army gets blown out by Notre Dame. If Army gets blown out, they're done. Period. Yeah. I think the group of 5, if you lose one game, you're done. Then because Louisiana Monroe hasn't been ranked, and the committee's going to scramble to find another group of 5 team.
Well, or who would Boise play in that game?
Colorado State, and Colorado State has been winning games.
Yeah, so maybe they put Boise in anyways.
I don't think you can do that because but
the committee said they're not going to hold conference championship games against them.
So if Boise loses their conference and gets in, and Tulane wins theirs and doesn't get in, and Louisiana Lafayette wins theirs and doesn't get in, so that doesn't make any sense. You're honoring losing. So at that point, if they're not going to hold it again, if you're not going to hold it,
2 losses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
that would get interesting. I don't know how that would work. And being the group of 5 team, do you have to be a conference champion?
I would think so.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting. I don't think it's going to happen, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But
I'm not huge on Boise, but that's just me. I mean, they got Gentry and
Genty.
But good luck with that.
Anyways, we're rolling an hour and 15 right now. BYU, I have them falling to 16. I have Clemson at 17. I know I had them a little overranked last week, but I think they move up a little bit with the Pitt win and just some of the other teams that lost that were ahead of them. And I swear I'm going to keep putting them in. I said it last week. I'm going to keep putting them in until they lose. And I think this is the week that Army cracks the top 18 because you had everybody in front of them lose pretty much.
Yeah, when the committee was putting Missouri in there and
Missouri, LSU, like all these schools, and they lost. And so I think Army gets in. I think the only one that was ranked ahead of them that won was South Carolina, and they played Missouri. So but that's my rankings that are our rankings. I think we'll recap it, Wednesday because I don't know what time they're doing the rankings tomorrow. Either you guys will recap it tomorrow night if they do it at 7, but I know with college basketball and stuff, sometimes it's later. So if it's after the show tomorrow, we'll recap it on Wednesday. If it's before the show, you guys will recap it tomorrow. But that's where I have it. Duke, you can take that graphic down. I can't do anything. I don't know how I'm going to end this stream for you, to be honest.
I might be able to do it, but go ahead and close her out.
Yeah, but everybody that tuned in, I appreciate it. The people that were in the chat, like Scott and Duke, obviously. Thank you for jumping in the chat. If you're out there on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, just come over to YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you get notified before we go live. We go live Monday through Friday. Usually 7:30 is the time. That's pretty much the most consistent time. Fridays might be a little later. I think we did like 8:30 this past week, I think Friday. And then we try to go live Saturday if it fits with everybody's schedule to talk about college football, some of the games that are going on, everything like that. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Don't forget, we have the live show Saturday, December 7th at Cigarro Lounge up in Hubbard, Ohio. The graphic is on our social media. We'll continue to pump it out. But anybody that's in the area or can get to the area, I don't care. Just come pull up. We're going to watch football, smoke cigars, drink bourbon, have a good time. I don't know what the food rules are there, but we can order some pizzas or whatever and get food in there too. But thank you all for listening. It's another episode of the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. We'll see you guys next time.
Have a good night, everybody.
Peace. If I can end this stream.